Alright, so this episode has been built up to for a while. See, there's this ongoing subplot, or maybe more of a recurring bit, where Toya is very emphatic that the group should take on a quest to hunt down slimes, and slimes are capable of burning people's clothes off. It is repeatedly hinted at that Toya wants to go on these quests for this very reason. And now he's convinced the group to go on one of them. They will be going to a castle of a man who created slimes in pursuit of some goal. The first half of the episode has the gang going through the castle and encountering all sorts of slimes. Slimes that melt clothes, slime that create lube, slimes that jump on girls' bodies to imitate large breasts. Yeah, it's a whole lot of choices. The big climax is that his magnum opus was apparently the creation of a harem of slime waifus. The girls immediately burn down the castle. Also, this tiger guy was a powerful magical beast Toya made a contract with last episode. I just forgot to talk about that because I was too busy despairing over the fact that they were going to sexualize a 12-year-old. Anyways, this episode has a lot of sexualization of a 12-year-old. Save me, Chainsaw Man. The latter half of the episode is just 3 little vignettes of Toya and the girls. He helps Yai confirm her brother is alive and well using null magic, helps Elise pick out a dress, and encourages Linz as she tries to master a new type of magic. Now then, let's begin picking this apart. I'm going to start with what is probably a small problem in the grand scheme of things, but something which bothers me quite a lot because I'm just like that. And that's the slime harem, or rather, the way it isn't dwelled on. It makes sense to not dwell on it from one perspective. It's the punchline. The whole story was building up to it. But also, it was single-handedly the most interesting thing in the story from a world-building perspective. Like, do these things have free will? Do they have minds? The idea was to have a harem of slime girls, but is this just a bunch of slimes that look like girls, or are they like slime girls? Did they have hopes and dreams beyond being some kinky assholes magnum opus? Do they have opinions, drives? Can they talk? I can only assume that we cut to black because otherwise the age rating would increase because they're born to only do inappropriate stuff, but even that, if nothing else, is like in actual world-building detail. Like, it's a thing put into this world that's not completely cookie-cutter. It's tropey, sure, but it's not obligatory. It's not some adventuring guild or some duke that had to be there. This is what I need to reach for with this show. The second thing I want to talk about is this show's weird relationship with age. Like, okay, there is this scene from the last episode where God teases Toya about going to hell if he handles things wrong with Yumina, and that, like, I know I suspected it, but was this self-deprecating humor? Like, and don't ask why I know this historical fact, but Lolicon was actually initially a self-deprecating title that doujin artists who drew adults in childish proportions would call themselves. A dark omen indeed. Is this the same thing? Like, is this just how creeps do a wink and nod to their audience? Haha, we're so messed up. Because, like, I know I'm not showing it because, Look, this episode sexualizes Yumina a lot, okay? Like, it's a problem in this episode. And it's like, it's so wild that the show points out that it's wrong. And then just does it unironically. Alright, finally, we need to talk about Toya's characterization here. See, in episode 2, Toya tried to get people to go on this quest, and he did so again in episode 3. And each time it was to try and see these girls with their clothes off, and it's implied that the same thing was motivating him this time. Now, this makes him a sex pest, and I'm not going to dwell on that. You guys know why it's creepy as hell that he's doing this. What I'm fascinated by is how this fits into his characterization thus far. Well, characterization is a strong word. Toya is at the whims of the narrative, and so it makes sense he would try and push the story in the direction that the author thinks the audience wants, but also, he exists to serve a power fantasy, and I think it fits into this power fantasy in a way that is hard to make sense of at first. See, Toya gets all the girls, and he gets them because he's like a good person they like, right? It's the classic harem show format. He's nice to them, so they want to ride his cock. But this isn't nice. It's predatory. It's very specifically mean. He's supposed to be nice, heroic, and kind, right? Isn't that the heroic fantasy being played to? How could this not get in the way of that? Well, it's because I don't think Toya or most harem protagonists are actually defined by kindness. They are a sort of masculine ideal, which I'm calling soft man masculinity. Because Kanade didn't see Rain as a soft boy. She saw him as a soft man. This isn't in every show so far, but it is in 2 others we've seen on this channel. The Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest, and, as I just mentioned, Beast Tamer. The soft man is defined by a number of things. First, he is polite. He may be capable of sass and rebelliousness, but only when it is specifically provoked. Otherwise, he treats people around him with some degree of surface-level respect and cordiality. Second, the soft man is strong, and respected for it. He proves himself over the people around him, demonstrating that he is the person who deserves to be in a position of power. And finally, the soft man is capable of wielding power righteously. He finds himself in the possession of immense strength, and uses it to improve the lives of those around him. The kindness he exhibits is not that of compassion, but rather of altruism. Harem isekais do not ask the viewer to self-insert themselves onto a protagonist who empathizes with others, who endeavors to understand them, or who even treats them as an equal. At the very least, harem isekais don't tend to ask you to project yourself onto someone who has that as a defining part of how they interact with the world. Instead, the self-insert is one who accomplishes great things for the sake of others, one who imparts great gifts, defeats great evils, and does what is best for other people, often doing so for them. Empathy is optional, so long as there is reason to praise the protagonist. It is a masculine ideal which appeals to those who themselves are not great with other people or treating them well. It comes from a shallow ideal of kindness and of being a good person. If I could make all the decisions, everyone would be better off, and people would love me for it. And it is through this lens that we can appreciate why Toya would do something so unempathetic. See, the audience here need not ask if what Toya doing here is empathetic, if it is kind. They need not ask what the girls would think, if Toya properly considered their desires, or if there are any other basic social skills he's failing to employ. They only need to ask, is seeing these girls with their clothes melted off a good result? They don't need to convince themselves that this isn't a violation of trust. They just need to create a version of these girls in their head that could forgive him for it, that could say, it's just getting ogled, it's not that bad. And what's key to understand is that Elise, Linz, Yumina, and Yai don't just forgive him for it, they continue to adore him, because trust is not necessary for their affections. Feeling understood is not necessary. What is necessary is that the man gives them the results that the author thinks a woman wants. And let's take a look at that for a bit. The second half of the episode is what I said I wanted from episode 3. It's a bunch of little moments of one-on-one bonding between the protagonists, but it just doesn't work coming off the back of what happened. And like I said earlier, all the viewer can see is an authorial intent for a harem ending to be justified. It feels like there's an ulterior motive, even though there is none in-universe. These different moments are, for the most part, just him doing something for the girls. There is some character bonding in there, but it's never the focus. There's just something the girls want, and then he provides it, inducing the production of oxytocin. Linz's was probably my favorite because it goes into the details of how casting works. It requires a strong mental image, and Toya helps her brainstorm a mental image. It's cute, and if it was for a different duo, I might have really liked it. Yai's was just bland. She saw something she's worried about, and he assuages her worries. It was more of a chance to show off his powers than anything else. I think it would have been nice if Toya talked about his own family as well, but no, he's just sort of a blank slate as usual. Finally, we have the one that bothers me the most. Toya and Elise do that thing where Elise wants to buy a dress because she's a tomboy but secretly wants to dress girly but doesn't think she's allowed to, so a man in her life needs to convince her to, and then she likes it, and okay, there's a lot to say here. Now, I am very much a violent proponent of the women in princess dresses kicking asses agenda. I mean, I read Otome isekais, I'd have to be. There is something to be said about how hyperfemininity is not mutually exclusive with traditional masculine character traits such as violence, brashness, fighting with one's fists, and so on. But here, what is being subverted is not the borders around gender archetypes, instead it is Elise's masculinity itself. Often when this trope is done, the goal isn't to synthesize a new self-standard of femininity, which the girl in question is more comfortable with. Elise doesn't go on to kick someone's ass in a dress and decide that she likes being glammed up while doing her usual thing. It's not for her sake, it's for Toya's, or I suppose the audience's. It is a chance for Elise to fall, if only temporarily, into a different feminine archetype, this time a less masculine one, for a moment. The tomboy is made into a girly girl. Saying that Toya tamed her is not quite the right word for this fantasy, but it is a similar concept. He has taken the tomboy and invoked femininity in her. But beyond the weird gender stuff going on, there's one teensy, tiny problem that, makes this make no sense. Okay. The whole idea behind this trope is to take someone who doesn't dress girly and have them dress girly. Someone who doesn't dress girly. Elise compares herself to her more feminine younger sister, but both of them wear in their day-to-day life the same outfit. They wear a blouse with a skirt. In this world, all the girls wear skirts and all the boys wear pants. And Elise is the one with the more feminine hairstyle based on the standards of this world compared to Lynn's. Elise already conforms to the feminine beauty and fashion standards within the culture of this setting. If you wanted to do a scene like this, why didn't you just make Elise wear pants in her normal character design? She's not dressing more girly here. She's dressing more formal. This show can't even get misogyny right. If you like this video, then like and subscribe with notifications on, and make sure to leave a comment. And if you want me to keep making more of these, then support me on Patreon. And now, a thank you to all of my patrons, with an especially big thank you to my Tier 2 subscribers, Bellman, Carolyn Vig, and Love Your Content. Thanks for your support, and thanks for watching.